You've turned on Sexy Marriage Radio, where the best sex happens in the marriage bed. Here's your host, Dr. Corey Allen.
Welcome back to another episode of Sexy Marriage Radio, where we're having honest, straightforward conversations about marriage and life and sex and love and both sides of that equation, when it's good and when it's bad, and when you're young and when you're old, when it's working, when it's not, when you have kids, when you don't. We want to talk about it because we think here at Sexy Marriage Radio, we want to help frame the conversation and give good information that helps you experience all that this whole aspect of marriage and sex can be. If you'd like to join us with your questions or thoughts or topics that you want covered, 214-702-9565 is how you can leave a voicemail. And the people that leave voicemails get first in line with their questions and topics. Or if you want to just send us an email, you can always send us something at feedback@sexymarriageradio.com. And then if you like the show, I'm going to ask you to jump on iTunes, rate and review, jump on YouTube, give a comment if you watch the show there, however you choose to listen. I have to say thanks for taking some time out of your day to spend it with us. And with that, I bring on the guest that is going to be leading us in the charge today. Dr. Laurie Betito is joining us, and she has a couple different TED Talks. You can find her at drlaurie.com. She also has the Sex Bible for People Over 50, the complete guide to sexual love for mature couples. So Dr. Laurie, thank you very much for joining us in the Sexy Marriage Nation today.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
So I got to start there with the Sex Bible for People Over 50.
Yep.
How did you land with there?
Well, it's an interesting story. So I was turning 50 and I've wanted to write a book for a while. And I was, as I was turning 50 and all my friends were in their 50s, and through my practice, hearing people talk about either the lack of sex or the best sex they ever had, I decided it was time to do some research and put together a book with a science-based, health-based book on sex after 50, because frankly, that's an age group that is forgotten, ignored. We don't talk much specifically about aging and sexuality. It's a bit of a taboo subject still.
Right.
So that was my goal. My goal was really to teach people how to have the best sex of their lives after 50, and meaning often in long-term relationships.
Right.
I found that too many people were giving up. Like I kept hearing things like, "Oh, I'm 60. It's over. I'm too old anyway. What's the point? Why should I do this? What's the point?" And it was really annoying. I was thinking, I don't want to be that person, when I'm that age.
Exactly. No. It's going to hit us all. We're all,
exactly. If we're lucky, it's going to hit
always
us.
wins. Exactly.
Yeah. If we're lucky. And this is what the approach is like. If you're fortunate to get older, as some people are not fortunate to age.
Correct.
How do we age? With still passion? Like, how do we keep that passion in our lives, right, and the passion in the bedroom as we age? So the book kind of goes through male sexuality, female sexuality, the natural or normal evolution of that, plus all the potential problems that are likely to happen with age-related kind of things, and offers up solutions to all that. So explains the problems that might occur and then offers up some solutions.
Okay. And so let's start with that of what are some of the main things you come across? Because I know with the Sexy Marriage Nation, I have there's a vocal group out there that's, hey, what about us? Right.
Right. What about us? Yeah.
And that they're falling in line with what you've recognized in what spurred the book of, hey, there's not a whole lot of targeted information for that season of life, that stage of
Absolutely.
So what are some of the main things you hear impact them the most? And then let's talk about what are some of the things that will help with what that impacts.
So I'm not even sure where to start, but we could start with females, and we can start with what happens generally after 50 in women is menopause.
Hmm.
So what is the impact of menopause? So natural changes happen
Hmm.
with menopause if a woman isn't on hormones, etc. So that can have an impact on sexuality, like dryness, vaginal dryness, for example, maybe a lowered libido. Those are body image changes, things like that. So these things have clear solutions for it. Like women with vaginal dryness who experience pain don't have to suffer. There
Okay.
are options. There's estrogen based therapies that are intravaginal. There is lubricant that people can use. Some very basic things that I have found some people actually lack the knowledge of. Like I had a woman who was 65 come to me and say to me she hadn't had sexual relations with her husband in 2 years because it was simply too painful. And when I asked her, well, do you use any external lubricants, she had no idea what that was. So raising
Okay.
a generation where this was not an issue, right? People don't
Right.
use lubricants, it should be
Right.
natural.
Right.
So I suggested she try this, and a few months later came back and said, I can't believe it has changed my life. We are back to having sex again, and it's
How
great.
have we not known this? And look at what
I can't believe I didn't know this. Right.
and that's what's fascinating to me in the world we're in, is that you've got the world at your fingertips, literally, but yet there's still these areas and pockets of topics that aren't addressed, that aren't spoken of, or if they are, it's littered with shame or guilt or
Exactly.
misinformation, or and
Right.
it's just recognizing how do I get that kind of information in people's hands, which is part of why you wrote your book, is part of why Sexy Marriage
Right.
Radio exists, is part of why you do your work. But so if you're talking about that for the female, what about for the male over 50?
Well, the male over 50, what happens to men is that they panic a little more than women do because they
No, come on. Now
realize,
you're meddling there, Dr. Laurie. Hold
well,
on.
this is my experience. I'm
I'm,
just
I'm,
sharing,
I'm just
right?
harassing you. Go fire
uh,
away.
but the reason why the panic might be there is simply because they notice changes that they're not ready for. So
Okay.
they will be, well, all women kind of know, okay, menopause is coming. It's coming. Like we all know in our 50s that something's going to happen to us.
Hmm. Hmm.
Whereas men don't have they don't have like a point in time where it goes from not being menopausal to being menopausal, right? So
Right.
there's no
Right.
time frame. So for men age at a different rate,
Right.
sexually speaking.
Right.
But often I'll have men who come to me, whether they're 40, 50, 60, 80, where they say, I don't understand. I'm not functioning like I used to. I'm not as hard as I used to be.
Hmm.
It's taking me longer than I used to. What's wrong with me? Why
Right.
can't I get that back? So
Right.
they're not aware that, hey, you start aging at around 35, the male starts to age sexually. And depending on your health, depending on all kinds of other factors, will play into your erectile abilities.
Right.
So just having that information and to know that these are normal changes that happen, you will not have, it will take longer, it will be
Yep.
more difficult, it will be more, you'll need more hands-on, you'll need
Yep.
a bunch of things to get to the same place. So once they have that information, they realize, oh, okay, so I can adapt to this if I know that this is normal kind of
Right.
stuff,
Right. And
right?
that's, so now you're getting to the deeper level for both the female and the male of realizing, okay, there's going to be normal physical things that
Right.
are inescapable, whereas men don't necessarily have the timeline that's hard and fast or as prominent. It
Right.
can vary, but there's still the deeper level of the identity hit with that. Because I just think of my own kind, that if I can't perform, that's a big
It's a
identity
big hit. Exactly. And
that
this is part of
changes
it.
things. Okay.
Right. So that leads often to people avoiding sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
So I see couples also. And so when the couples come in, either there's a problem with desire, so a discrepant desire level, and that can be in the man or the woman.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in either one. I see them both. And that's a big one. And sometimes it's related to performance anxiety in the men because they are afraid of not getting there, afraid of disappointing their partner. And maybe the partner has reacted in a negative way too. Like there's a two-way
Sure.
dance here,
Sure.
right? Because the partner doesn't know. The partner may be lacking the same information the man may be lacking. And so is thinking, is it me? Are you no longer attracted to me? Is it because I'm old now? Is it? So there's all these questions when it is never about the partner. I've hardly ever seen it be about the partner, but
Right.
more about what's happening. So once we start working with the couple on the anxiety, taking the pressure off, there's a chapter in my book about sex without intercourse, like a redefining sexuality, like getting down to back to some of the basics that you used to do when you first met, where you didn't just go right into bed, right?
Right.
So more kissing, more touching, more being in tune with your body, more mindfulness in terms of being really being in your body rather than being in your head. So these are the kinds of things that we address, especially when it comes to men and dealing with their performance anxiety.
Okay.
Desire issues are different, a little bit different.
That's where I was heading next, because that's
Right.
that is the one thing that, you know, I find our field in the world of sexuality, particularly in committed relationships, i.e. marriage, is what I target with Sexy Marriage Nation. That's the holy grail in a sense of how do you solve the struggles with desires? Because there's always differences, right? There's a higher and a lower. I even had a member at last year's Sexy Marriage Radio getaway that we do came up to me. She coined the phrase with me, I'm not a lower desire, I'm a slower desire. That it just takes her a while to get going. And I'm like, that is a perfect description of it.
And
So
that would be, I would say, the majority of women in long-term relationships. So I always, the way I describe it, and this is a generalization because there are some men who have lower desire, but let's just say if we take like 75% of women in long-term relationships are dimmer switches. You know, there's the on off, which is the male, and the dimmer switch, which is the slower desire switch, which takes a while. So if you don't understand, if a couple doesn't understand that there are two mechanisms going on here that are very different, then you get the problem of, well, I don't get it. I want it and you don't like I can want it, you know, but women aren't like that. So what do women need? It's not, and when you ask women who say they have lower desire, who are slowers rather than on off, they will say that when they engage in sex with their partners, they love it. Like they are enjoying it. They are responding well to it. So they don't really have a problem with sex per se, but the way we define desire and the way we look at it, especially from a male perspective, that feeling of that spontaneous desire, that the horny feeling kind of thing. If we look at it that way, then women have a problem. But if we change the optic and look at how women are actually, that they need certain things in order to get there, their problem is from point A to point B. Once they're in B, they're okay, right? So it's the getting there phase that needs to be kind of worked at. So women who are there, let's say women who make the choice to engage in sex. So I'm going to call it a choice rather than simply having a desire to, right? People make choices for various reasons. I want to feel close to my partner. I want to connect. I want to show my love, whatever it is. Once they make that decision, in the next few minutes that they let their bodies go and their partner starts to stimulate them, guess what happens? The desire kicks in. It's like, I want to keep going. This is
so
good.
Desire follows choice sometimes is what you're describing.
That's right. Desire follows arousal rather than in men. Arousal is desire and then arousal.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So oh, you keep going if you got some more.
Yeah. Well, it's just understanding that is really important. So once we understand that and we understand what she needs in order to actually say yes, meaning she needs a clear head, she needs to be relaxed, she needs to know that maybe all her laundry's done, whatever it is that preoccupies her brain.
Right.
Once that's taken care of, then it could be a good moment to say yes. But it's still her responsibility to let her partner know what she needs in order to feel relaxed enough and be in her body enough to say yes, let's do it. It may not be when she crawls into bed at 11:30 at night.
Right.
So
That's the concept of foreplay, is not just what happens right before sex.
Right.
It's the
all
interwoven
day.
throughout. Right. That
Yeah.
I've heard, there's the popular phrase that foreplay starts in the kitchen.
Yep.
Esther Perel even made who's the first person I heard make the comment of foreplay happens after orgasm, because you're setting up the next one.
Right.
That it's that whole interchange to see. And that's the thing I love about marriage is it's a long game, is the way I frame it. That this is a long game process we've got going on. It's not just a one-time conquest.
That's right.
And how do you start to see this dynamic so that you're each playing your own roles better, I guess you could say. So is there some specifics you've come across in the research and the work you do that target men when it comes to desire?
Well, it works the same. If you look at men who have low desire, sometimes, look, people have a baseline of desire. So you may have some people who have always had a lowish kind of desire, and people who've always had a medium and high desire. So it really, to me, I have to determine is this your norm, your baseline, first of all?
Right.
And then look at what is it that motivates you? What is it that that also makes you want to engage? So that you may not have a lot of spontaneous desire, but you may still be motivated. So you may still enjoy sex. You may still, so it's looking at the same kinds of things really as to what motivates you. So a man with performance anxiety will have difficulty with the libido possibly as well. So you have to address what's the anxiety. Sure.
Because that's getting into the deeper level of what speaks in a man's heart is, can I come through? Can I, that's the whole, as a child, I think the men, we've been in that mantra for a long, long time.
That's right.
And I do see the ease of, if this is a struggle, then the choice of, I'm just not even going to go there, can see me all the more appealing, rather than, it's not in line though with what I really want. It's just, I got to have the courage to confront that and see the playing field is different. The dynamics are different, but the goals can still be the same, of connecting and enjoying and the pleasure. It just, how we get there is a little different.
Right. Well, if we keep sex as a performance-oriented kind of thing and goal-oriented in a relationship, we lose sight of that. And that's the long game. The long game is about, what do we use sex for in a relationship? It's for connection, for intimacy, for showing love, for all of these things. You don't need intercourse for that.
Right.
So, and people don't, they just see, when you say the word sex, what do they think of? They think of intercourse. Yep. And that was one of the main messages in my book was, no, that's not what sex is. Let's look at sexuality and what does sexuality involve? It could be two people lying next to each other, holding hands naked. That's part of sex too. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's anything you wouldn't do with your sibling is part of sexuality.
That's a pretty good descriptor. Okay. That's good. So are there some other things that you see that are pretty prominent in the target audience you have with this work, that they struggle with, or that are issues that they need, that can be addressed with just a different mindset, different shift of focus or information?
Yes, a lot of worries about body image. So body changes, for example, women worry. And it's so interesting because women worry far more than their partners ever give them even cause to worry, because it's not in their minds. They're not hearing from partners, oh, gee, your breasts are too low. Like they don't, men, they don't care. Their partners don't care. So, but they care. It seems like because they're feeding into the social media and the society we live in of what is beautiful, and we still hang on to youth is beautiful. So you have women doing all kinds of stuff to themselves, including things to their genitals, sadly. And this to me is concerning, because we really should be celebrating our bodies, what our bodies can still do, what we have, and be less concerned that our partners, they don't care. It's not like they don't care as much as you care. You
Right.
can be sure of that.
Right. Yeah, because that's the interesting thing is if you look at the context of a committed relationship, we've got all this information, but yet sometimes we don't believe our partner.
Exactly. We
Right.
tend not to believe our partner. Why? This is the person we've been with all these years. Why shouldn't we?
Right. Give them a little credit.
That's right. And that's because people don't understand also maybe attraction. Like attraction over time deepens to a different level. Like you find many things about your partner that's attractive that isn't related to their external appearance. When you look at two people, I look at my own parents, for example, they're in their 80s and wildly attracted to each other still, and still very much loving and showing and passionate and all of this stuff.
Right.
They've gotten old, like, and wrinkled and all these other things, but yet what connects them and what they love about each other is that's the attraction. That's what makes somebody attractive to us.
Right. Yeah. And I think of that in terms of, there's a phrase I came across years ago from a movie that talked about how getting old is earned. That it's something that we do earn this. And if you think about it in the context of a relationship, I see it as, you know what, the experience I've had with my wife, or the experience that you've had with a mate for any length of time, all of the shifts and changes of their body, I was a part of that. You know, I helped earn that. And if you had kids, then that's, you know, some of that's
you may have caused that.
Well, I was definitely a part of that, yes. but it's seeing it as, okay, wait, no, that's you. We've earned this together. And if nothing else, how do you start to see the deeper parts of, no, it's beyond that, like you talk about, because what maybe initially attracted us was a physique or a stature or something that was prominent of their physical character. But then as you get deeper into it, you realize, wait, that's not you. There's so much more underneath that and behind that, that's the bond you're describing.
Right. That bond and the values that you share in common are so, so important, far more than the physical stuff. It's not that we don't want our partner to look good and that we shouldn't look good for our partner, because ultimately we want our partners to be healthy. We want them to have, if we value a healthy lifestyle, we would be attracted to somebody and continue to be attracted to someone who has a healthy lifestyle. If your partner does not, and this is what you value, the values clash. So it's not that you're not attracted to your partner, but there's a clash of that value that has to be addressed.
Okay. And so then you're talking about having a little bit more of a deeper meaning conversation.
Exactly.
That it's not the external things, which is what we can easily start to do, where we get caught up in those things, rather than what's the meaning of this, that this is the value that we're talking about.
That's right.
How I'm living my life versus how I see you're living yours. And it doesn't seem like we're in the same arena like we used to be.
Right. And it may be hurtful to the partner who wants to be healthy, whose partner may not be, and feels like you're killing yourself. Oh my, I'm going to lose you. I don't want to lose you. I want you to be around.
Right.
But it's because we have difficulty with these conversations, the other person takes it very much as a criticism. So you don't like me because I've gained so much weight, or you don't like me because whatever it is, right? And it may not be about that. We have to look at it that from a deeper level. It's just that we often get into these power struggles, or where somebody gets very defensive. So maybe find a way to say it in a way that is more compassionate.
Okay. But I also, I'm not hearing it clearly, but I think I know where you're going with this, with your belief structure, that I can say these things are deeper and harder to say to my spouse, but I also have to say these things to myself and confront my own self-image and my own perception, because gravity's going to hit us all. It already has in some regards, but it's inevitable that's going to happen, that skin, sags and shifts and wrinkles, and there's no way around that. Doesn't matter how many surgeries, unless you want to look like a plastic
Barbie.
something. Right. but it's seeing it as I've got to confront that in myself as well, in my own self-perception.
And those are things that have nothing to do with health. The sagging and that's not
Right.
not a clash in values in any way.
No.
That's just a natural progression, and how fortunate we are to have earned these wrinkles. Like how fortunate we are that we are still here.
Yep.
And we need to celebrate our aging process. I find people get so hung up on, oh my God, I'm turning 50. I'm so like, and they get really down and don't want to celebrate. You should be jumping and screaming from the rafters.
Right. Yeah, look at what we've accomplished. Look at how far I've come. I like that. So Dr. Laurie, tell the Sexy Marriage Nation how they can find you if they want more information, please.
Sure. You can go to my website, drlaurie.com, drlaurie.com. You'll find information about my book, which is available on Amazon. And you'll have access to my TEDx talks that are on there about the passion in long-term relationships, especially.
Yeah, because that is the one thing that we're all trying to find, isn't it? That if you're in a long-term relationship, how do I keep a fire going? And it's almost like what you're describing today is I keep it going by keeping it going in myself, of just recognizing the passion in myself.
That's a great way to say it.
Dr. Laurie, thank you very much. And this has been Sexy Marriage Radio, where we are grateful you take some time out of your day to spend it with us, and however you choose to listen to us. So wherever you are, whatever you've been listening, however you've been listening, thanks. And we'll see you next time. Hey, I don't hear you. Hold on. Let me close one. I still don't hear you. Actually, let me wait, I'll hang up and reconnect.